Hello fellow makeup lovers, I am back with another makeup history video, and today we are going to be diving into Pat McGrath Labs. If you haven't seen already, I do have a full video on the history of L'Oreal, which I think is extremely fascinating, so I'll have that in the cards for you here, but I thought maybe let's go back and forth a little bit. We talked about a company that has been around for a really long time with some scandal, some controversy. Today, let's talk about a makeup artist turned billion-dollar makeup brand that I find to be very inspiring, and I feel like if you are a makeup nerd, this is the story for you. So Patricia Ann McGrath was born June 11th, 1971 in Northampton, England. So her mom, Jean McGrath, was a dressmaker and also a single mother of Pat and her two other siblings. So what you need to know about Jean is that she loved fashion. She loved film, she loved costumes, and she was a huge inspiration for Pat. She has said that everything her mom was obsessed with, she was also obsessed with, and even at 6 years old, she remembers going to London and makeup shopping with her mom. She would watch her mom mix eyeshadow pigments into her foundation because of the lack of shades for dark skin. They also spent a lot of time analyzing the makeup of old Hollywood stars, and they would even play a game where Jean would stand in front of the TV until Pat and her siblings would guess what she would have done differently. They would look at Vogue patterns together, go to the fabric market, and then decide what makeup would go best with each outfit and with each fabric. It seems like beauty and fashion was such a huge part of their relationship and something they really bonded over. So growing up, Pat actually wanted to be a professional opera singer. That was her dream. But at the age of 16, she went ahead and attended the Northampton College Arts Foundation course. And this course did not include anything on fashion or makeup, and you might be surprised to know that Pat McGrath, despite being an iconic makeup artist, never went on to have any formal makeup artistry training. I'm not 100% sure on the timeline, but I think this is around the mid 1980s. Pat was outside of Radio 1 and she was stalking an English pop band called Spandau Ballet. I'm not super familiar with them, but she showed up with a very bold makeup look. She had a bold lipstick on her lips, her eyes, her cheeks, and the presenter there, the radio broadcaster Janice Long, she noticed and she actually motioned towards Pat's face and said, "Can you do that to me?" Before this moment, Pat didn't really realize that that was a job. And she said that she went home that night knowing what she wanted to do with her life. It's really cool because her mom always encouraged her to have a job that she was obsessed with and that she loved, and she found it. So in the late 1980s, Pat ended up moving to London, and she would sneak into Paris ready-to-wear shows with her friends, and it's actually kind of cool because she said they would dress up fancy, she would wear hats, and they would pretend to be magazine editors, and they even had a fake Vogue ID, which is definitely a very fake it till you make it, because one of her friends, we'll talk about him in just a second, but he ends up being a very powerful man at British Vogue. So I feel like that's a very like fake it till you make it kind of moment, and I can't imagine how much fun that would have been. So through the London like club scene, Pat actually ends up meeting Karen Wheeler, who is the lead singer of a British band called Soul to Soul, and she asked Pat to come on tour with her in Japan for 3 months and do the makeup. I feel like this is kind of a defining moment in the story because Pat decided to drop out of college, leave her job, and go on tour. When I first read this, I was thinking to myself, like, that sounds like such a terrifying leap of faith kind of moment, like just really following your dreams and giving up everything stable for like a far off hope. And Pat did admit that she was scared to death and she cried the entire way there because she had never been on a plane before. In the early 1990s, Pat started to work with Edward Enninful, which is one of her friends I mentioned earlier that she would sneak into the fashion shows with. And he was actually the youngest fashion director ever at ID magazine. So she was working alongside him and their two styles really stood out together against the very like grungy, understated makeup of the 90s. And to this day, they still consider each other one another's best friend. Enninful is also now the beauty editor at large at British Vogue. And I thought there was a really cute quote. I believe it was him from a story that he was talking about working on set with her. And you know, like I said, it's the 90s. The no makeup is very in. And Pat walked on and said, "I'm gonna need a yellow eyebrow." And for some reason that just stood out to me as extra iconic. When they first started working together, she was still financially supporting herself by being a receptionist. Enninful has joked that during this time, Pat would pay their train fares and she would buy them sandwiches and they would jokingly call her the rich one of the group. So Pat is continuing to do makeup artistry jobs, and in 1994 she actually worked with Naomi Campbell, I believe, for the first time, and she really praised Pat McGrath for her skin artistry and the lack of foundation that she used. Also in 1994, Pat got booked to do a commercial, well, not do a commercial, do makeup for a commercial with a really famous photographer. His name is Steven Meisel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. He must have liked what he saw because with his endorsement, she went on to do so many ad campaigns and shows with Versace, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Dolce & Gabbana, Dior, Givenchy, like a lot of big names. And in 1999, she ended up receiving what a lot of people call like her biggest break yet, because Giorgio Armani hired her to collaborate on a new line of cosmetics. Armani is quoted in a conversation with Vogue saying that he was struck by how she interpreted color and the ideas that she had about beauty and femininity, and that she never used makeup to mask a woman. In 2004, Pat was hired by Procter & Gamble as the Global Cosmetics Creative Design Director. That's definitely a long name for a position, but this position is rumored to have an annual salary of over $1 million. So she was definitely doing well for herself at this point. So let's skip ahead a little bit to 2015 because that is the beginning of the brand Pat McGrath Labs. So Pat said that one day she was working in a private lab and ended up formulating, quote unquote, the most divine gold eye pigment that she had ever laid her eyes on. And she called her team and she said, "Let's go. Let's launch." They launched on September 30th with the shade Gold 001, and within minutes, it sold out. By 2019, just 4 years later, her brand was a $1 billion company. It became the best-selling makeup line in Selfridges. I guess I could have said this a second ago, but I thought it was kind of cute that she chose the name Pat McGrath Labs because it sounds scientific and nerdy, and when you hear her talk about her love of makeup and being obsessed, and like she loves how people talk about makeup in technical terms now, and I feel like you don't really hear that many brands come out with a name like that. I just thought it was like kind of geeky and cute, and after learning more about her, I love it. Also, if you are curious, because Pat McGrath is self-made, I was kind of looking into if her brand is an independently owned brand, and it is not. She owns 70% stake in her company, and she does have 2 investors. So something that you might not know about this part of the story is that obviously we can see Pat McGrath Labs is a very successful brand, but Pat has said that for 15 years, before she came out with her makeup line, she had talked to really high up makeup executives, and they basically were like, people don't know you, they don't want anything from you, the kind of work that you do is like great for the runway, but people don't want to actually buy that. And it sounds like they were very discouraging. Social media ended up playing a big part in Pat deciding to launch her brand, because that's when she had so many people saying, we do want that one from you. We do want your products. We do want your vision, despite like what she's been told so many times, like, oh no, like who cares about you? It's crazy because now she has a full-on cult-like following. If you even say something negative about her products in a review, there's someone who's going to be mad at you. But I digress. I think it's really cool that Pat has talked about being a huge fan of social media, loving all the trends and like how obsessed people are with makeup just like she is now. And she's actually said that even a huge part of her team has been found through social media. So currently, Pat conceptualizes and creates the concepts for over 60 ready-to-wear and couture shows every single year in Milan, London, Paris, New York, for some of the most prestigious luxury brands out there. I've got a whole list for you. It's just like the smallest amount. There's so many more, but Prada, Miu Miu, Dior, Burberry, Givenchy, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, like those were just the names that I recognized, and I barely recognize them. I shop at Target, okay? She's also been known for hauling around 87 trunks of supplies with her to her jobs, and she recently joked that she cut back a little bit and it's only 67 trunks now. And the trunks are actually not full of makeup. There's Swarovski crystals, there's masks, feathers, gemstones, fabric, even gold splinters. Something else that I thought was really interesting was that when she was asked about like what one of her favorite tricks is that she mentioned she loves using her fingers, and that her fingers are the ultimate trick behind every single one of her signature looks. I thought that was cool because even sometimes when I'm reviewing products, people are like, oh, like I don't want to have to use my fingers. You shouldn't have to use your fingers. And then you have the most iconic makeup artist out here saying, no, your fingertips are everything. In 2020, what am I talking about? In 2021, the late Queen Elizabeth II, she awarded Pat with the highest accolade in British society. She was recognized for her service to the beauty and fashion industry, for her commitment to diversity, as well as her makeup artistry, which I think is so cool. She is considered a dame now. I don't know how British society works, but that sounds so fucking cool. As of right now, Pat McGrath has a net worth of over $700 million, and she is considered to be the most influential makeup artist in the entire world. If you are chismosa like I am and you're like, what's happening in her private life? Does she have a family, a husband, a partner? I don't know. She has kept her private life extremely private, which I do respect. But I did want to talk about her mom just a little bit more because I feel like her mom's love of beauty and that part of her childhood is just so present in her signature looks. For one, I mean, I think we all know that Pat McGrath is known for just creating the most beautiful, glowy, luminous skin looks. And she actually talks about how when she was a child, she would watch her mom put on a full face of makeup and then go run a bath. And all the steam and everything, she would come out with the most beautiful, dewy skin. Also, with the diversity in her work and her shade range in Pat McGrath Labs, she's talked about how she never wants another woman to have to do what her mom did, having to mix their own products and to be seen in the beauty industry. She said that during her childhood, she remembers spending so much time hunting for products that actually worked for them, and that even when they did find something, it felt like it was more by accident than by design. Okay, guys, I left this towards the end. I'm gonna try not to get choked up, but Pat's mom, Jean, did end up passing in 1992 before Pat really got her big break, and I just can't imagine how proud she would be, especially I feel like as a single mom, like obviously she was working very hard, taking care of her children, giving them a beautiful childhood, and then to see your daughter become one of the most successful people in the industry that she loved so dearly. Not only that, like obviously extremely successful personally in her work, but also just the impact that she's made on every single person that now feels included in the beauty industry in a way that Jean wasn't. Okay, I tried to rein in the emotions a little bit, but I hope that you can also see why I found Pat's story to be so inspiring. She's a self-made millionaire. She's a woman of color who really just changed the industry in a lot of ways. And it actually gave me a renewed appreciation for the products that I have from Pat McGrath Labs. I still want to see some more colorful eyeshadow. I will stand by that. We need something other than pinks and purples. But I loved this story. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, even if all you're putting is algorithm. I saw Robert Welsh mention this and I never thought about it. Maybe you don't know what to comment. Anything at all helps. I'm not going to make this video any longer. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.